And hello again, everyone, and welcome into another edition of Bailey's Best. Brian Bailey with Zach Kaplan as we talk sports. And when you're talking sports this time of the year, we have to wrap up football and then have basketball and everything else that's going on, plus baseball, softball at East Carolina. Let's start with the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 60 goes to the Seattle Seahawks. You're a big Patriot guy. Yeah. And, you know, it's hard. It's been a long time for me since my team lost in a Super Bowl because my team hasn't been there in so long. But that's very difficult, isn't it?
It hurt a lot less than losing to the Giants and losing to the Eagles, which as an NFC East guy, I know you can understand because losing to those two teams always stinks because they'll always let you know about it. I do have some friends from the Pacific Northwest. I was in Montana before I lived in North Carolina, so that, I've been hearing from them a little bit. But, it's been it was a great season. I have to remind myself that I said 9-8 at the start of the year, and now 14 wins later, to be upset about a Super Bowl loss is a good place to be. But they just, you could tell from the jump that Seattle was just going to bring it all night defensively.
Yeah, the dark side defense with Seattle. And you're right. It just seemed like from the very first play of the game, they were just a step ahead. And it was kind of surprising to me because Mike Vrabel's such a good coach, and obviously he's got the experience, but I don't know what could have been different for the Patriots to have any success because they really were behind the eight ball all evening long.
I don't think it would have mattered. The defense certainly did their part. They only give up 12 points through three quarters. They give the New England offense a chance, but Drake May just didn't have a lot of time to throw. I don't think offensively there was really any adjustments they could have made. I would have liked to see them go up tempo a little more in the second half. Maybe that changes things, but they had no answers for that Seattle defense.
Good to see a guy like Sam Darnold coming at quarterback and win a Super Bowl championship because he has played with some bad teams.
He's played with some bad teams. He's gotten bad circumstances too. The Vikings, all he did was win 14 games with the Vikings last year. They told him to pack his bags.
Why?
So he could go win a Super Bowl in Seattle.
I guess so.
And, he's had it. I mean, obviously he was with the Panthers when they were awful a few years ago. So he's certainly had to, work for getting this far. And now he's broken my heart twice, Brian. In the 2017 Rose Bowl, he was at USC. They beat Penn State on a walk-off field goal.
Forgot about
and
that.
now Super Bowl 60. So it's just breaks my heart, I guess. That's what Sam Darnold likes to do.
He's a heartbreaker. But, when you get to the Super Bowl, like a guy like Vrabel, I mean, you knew he was a good hire from the start, didn't you?
Yeah, and he's been awesome. I'm glad Tennessee let him walk. I thank them every day for letting him take his year off and then be the Patriots head coach. And they're in good shape going forward. The one thing I don't like is people say they'll be back. That's not necessarily true as far as Super Bowls go. The only guy to lose his first and then get back and win one was Jalen Hurts. Marino got back after losing his first, but he famously never won one. So it's not as common as people think. So we'll see if that happens.
Yeah, and you think, you look at a season and you think, well, they'll be back next year. But rarely are they back next year.
No, it's so rare. And Brady did do it recently, but, he had 4 Super Bowls to his name before that happened. Lost to the Eagles and then came back the following year, beat the Rams. And again, Jalen Hurts just did it. He's really the only guy recently who's done it.
As soon as the Super Bowl is over, you get into the mock drafts, and I hate those. But you also get into who can win the Super Bowl next year. And there's a myriad of teams that can, because what it takes is a good draft, some good free agent signings, and just for things to click. And I think there's 7-8 teams on each side that could be in the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, and you need the schedule to break your way too.
Right.
Which, I mean, with New England this year, everyone brought it up, and ultimately, they played a Seattle team that was probably the best, would have been by far the best on their schedule this year, and they got manhandled. But it's the things that broke their way this year in the AFC with Cincinnati not making the playoffs, Kansas City not making the playoffs, Baltimore gets knocked out in the final game of the regular season, and a lot of those teams just weren't roadblocks in the way that people thought they would be. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that makes a big difference when Patrick Mahomes is not out there.
Yeah, I mean, and they're spending a lot more money on him than they used to. Drake May is still on his rookie contract, so they have a couple of years to spend money on some of those things, offensive line, receivers that obviously were issues during Super Bowl 60. But again, it's hard to get back, and those teams are going to reload, and one of them's going to rise up.
What's the ceiling for a Drake May, do you think?
I think, with May, like, he can be a guy who's top I think top 10, top 15 in the league year in and year out. I get annoyed because he didn't play well in the playoffs, and I think that's a lot of people's impressions of him. But he played so well in the regular season. He's a second-year guy.
Like he was here in the regular season. He was up there in the MVP conversations, and he just didn't play that well in the playoffs. And they still, made it all the way to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, as far as efficiency goes, I mean, it was him and Rex Grossman in 2006. They were like at about the same level of efficiency as a passer, which I don't like that because, I mean, Rex Grossman might be one of the worst quarterbacks to play in a Super Bowl. So I don't like to think about Drake that way. You hope this isn't the high water mark, but I mean, it is hard to get back.
All of a sudden football is over. What do you do with football being over? Obviously, we've got lots to do, but it just seems like, football is just, it's my favorite sport. I'm not sure if it's your favorite, but it's certainly mine. Yeah. And you hate those Sunday afternoons now with golf. And other things.
Well, it's college basketball. It's going to be college basketball. And hey, if you're not paying attention yet, I'm going to call you a casual fan. I'm going to be honest, because if you're just now tuning in, you've missed a really fun season so far. But that's how you fill the time, because it has been such a fun college basketball season. You got freshmen all over the country that are making an impact. The ACC, which we'll talk about in a little bit, is way better. And the golf is fun too, but we're gonna have all the majors coming up in a little bit. But it's the college basketball, and they've been better about this year moving the games around a little bit, where they're not all on Saturdays. There's some. The Big Ten's got some on Sundays. There's been some Friday night games in the Big East. UConn and St. John's last week was awesome. So you got games spread out better across the calendar than it's been in the recent past. But college hoops, I'm excited to jump in.
And we're going to talk much more college basketball. We had the Duke Carolina game the other night, and then Carolina comes back and kind of lays an egg at Miami just last night. So we'll talk more about that coming up. We'll talk Pirate baseball, Pirate softball, a whole lot to get to as Bailey's Best continues right after this. All right, welcome back to Bailey's Best. Brian Bailey with Zach Kaplan. Let's talk a little basketball right now. Let's start with the Atlantic Coast Conference. You were at Chapel Hill, the Dean Dome, for the North Carolina Duke game. And I'll tell you, I'll share this with you, and we'll show you the highlight that you shot. But the game-winning shot, those are so hard to get, because when you're a photographer, all you're thinking about is don't screw it up. Don't screw it up. And no matter how old you are, whether you're your age or my age, that's the thing you're thinking. Don't screw it up. And you did a great job. You had a great shot of it. And that had to be something, being in Chapel Hill for UNC and Duke, and the magical shot right there.
Yeah, and I was there last year in Charlotte. Carolina's down 24, comes back, ties the game, negated by a lane violation. And I was like, all right, that's going to be the best Carolina-Duke game I see for some time, probably. But, I mean, that was unbelievable Saturday night, and what an atmosphere. I'm trying to still think where it ranks as far as things I've seen in person. I've been at some Penn State whiteouts. I've been to, some big football games, but nothing quite like a Carolina-Duke game in Chapel Hill. On a three-pointer, you almost want to be on the other baseline shooting it, because then you can kind of get the full shot and nobody's in your way. And I was talking about it with our friend Charlie Mickens, who's worked a long time in Raleigh afterwards. He was on the near baseline, and he got trampled by people storming the court right after.
Wow.
And he was like, so I was glad that didn't happen to me. You try to time it out. We've been lucky with these East Carolina field storms. I feel like I know what to do now. Because we had it with the Memphis game at Dowdy Ficklin. We had it now 2 bowl games in a row. And so I feel like I'm a little seasoned with it. But that's when they storm the court or the field, that's always a wild thing as a photographer.
And you had 2 court stormings in the Chapel Hill game, right? Because they put .4 back on the clock, and then you get to go back out there. But I know it's a big thrill to see a game like that, and just another great chapter in Duke and North Carolina. And then Carolina went on the road to Miami, and Miami had a court storming because they upset North Carolina.
I mean, what an egg they laid down in Coral Gables. Obviously, we tape here on a Wednesday. That was Tuesday night. And Miami has really surprised a lot of people. Jay Lucas, it was kind of an under-the-radar move. He left Duke kind of right as the ACC tournament was beginning last year. But he has been outstanding in year one. They sit at 8-3 in the league, 19-5 overall as we sit here on Wednesday afternoon. So they've been really impressive, and he's got them right in the mix, possibly for a double bye in the ACC tournament.
Yeah, you look at the double bye teams, and that would be the top four. Duke at 11-1, and Duke, they got out of a little bit of a slow start last night against Pittsburgh, but they overcame some of those woes and won at Pitt. Clemson also, they're a half game back. They're 10-1. Duke's 11-1. Virginia's 10-2. Virginia hasn't looked that good lately, but they've somehow been able to win some games. State's 9-3. Did they lay an egg the other night?
That was even
on
worse.
the road against Louisville? Man, that was crazy. But then you get the Miamis, the Louisvilles, North. I mean, there's so many good teams in the ACC, and you get to a certain mark down there, and then it's like they're not very good. Yeah. So you got your bottom feeders, and you got your top, your upper echelon, if you will. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Now, East Carolina's situation's a little different. The Pirates are trying to get into the American tournament. Only the top 10 teams make the American tournament. For the men, East Carolina's at 2-8, 2 games behind Rice and North Texas, and basically Tulane. All 3 of those teams have 4 wins in conference. East Carolina has 2, but they have a big chance tonight for number 3. UTSA comes to town in a night game set for tonight, a 16-game losing streak. Man, that's hard to do. They're just 4-19 overall, and the Pirates are 10.5-point favorites. So East Carolina really needs to take care of business tonight.
And when you look at the bottom 5 in the league, the Pirates are 2 games behind Tulane, North Texas, and Rice in the win column at least. So that's kind of who they need to jump. You still have 2 games left against UTSA, who, as you mentioned, the long losing streak. So I think they got to sweep those 2 games against the Roadrunners. I think they got to win 2 more against somebody, whoever that may be, whether that's, they beat UAB or they somehow beat Memphis later. I know they host them later in the year, beginning of March. So I think you got to get to 6, I think is the magic number. And it involves, starts with sweeping UTSA at the bottom of the league.
And if you make it, I mean, anything can happen. There is not a real juggernaut, although Tulsa is 20-4. They're 8-3 in the conference. South Florida's 8-3. Temple's 7-3. Wichita State 7-4. Charlotte 7-4. And Memphis 7-4. So there's a logjam at the top, and there aren't really stellar records as far as that goes. So anything can happen. Now, for the ladies, East Carolina is in a chase for the regular season championship. East Carolina 10-2 in American play. Rice is 11-0, so they're chasing Rice, and the Owls are 21-3 overall. They've had a great season. But East Carolina, give them credit. Give Kim McNeil and company credit. They play well, and they get it done on the road.
And really, it's been in conference play with 10 new players. It took some time to get it together and figure out what they wanted rotation-wise, what Kim's expectations of this team were. You had so many new girls to the roster. The problem is Rice just never loses. They, again, last night, as we sit here again on Wednesday, they pull one out of their hat that they really should have lost, and ECU would have been just a game back of the Owls. But Rice doesn't lose. I said this on the pod before, you don't want to be the 1 seed in the women's side of things, because the 1 seed 3 years in a row has been upset. So, and then 2 years ago, the 1 seed loss that allowed the Pirates to make their run to the NCAA tournament, see if they can make it 2 in 3 years.
All right. We're going to take a break right now. We'll come back. We'll talk Pirate baseball. East Carolina and Xavier set to open up the season. 3-game series at Clark LeClaire Stadium this weekend. Back with more on Bailey's Best for you after this. All right, welcome back to Bailey's Best. It's baseball season. Finally, we get a chance to cheat winter. Spring is here because we've got East Carolina Pirate baseball, Pirates, and Xavier. And Xavier's a good baseball team. I'm looking forward to the series.
I am too. I will say to folks going out to Clark LeClaire, the weather does not look good for Sunday. So, we're going to get a game in Friday. Looking good Friday, Saturday. And for this time of year, and especially with the winter we've had, we'll take it, considering it was a foot of snow on the field, 10, 12 days ago.
By the time you watch this, you'll know, but if it's later in the week, but there may be a doubleheader Saturday. That's the talk over at East Carolina. Had a chance to talk to Billy O'Connor. He's the Xavier baseball coach. He's a lot like Cliff Godwin. He went to Xavier, played baseball there, comes back to his alma mater just like Cliff Godwin did. He's a fiery guy. He's fired up. And I asked him, and this is courtesy of our good friends at Pirate Radio on my radio show this week, what he was looking forward to about this weekend at Clark LeClaire Stadium.
Oh, I think jungle. I think that's what everybody and everybody's excited to experience. So I'm glad that if for a little while there, the weather was looking a little shaky even the first couple of days. So I wasn't sure what kind of attendance there might be, but it looks like the first couple of days will be pretty nice now. So we're excited. You play. It's one of the things in the Big East we don't get, there's good baseball. Don't get me wrong. There's really good teams, UConn and Creighton and St. John's. Not a whole lot of hostile environments. I think our guys are excited for a hostile environment. Now, don't use that against me.
I promise.
And yelling and cussing us out, but I think we're excited to go down there and compete and see what it's all about. Yeah, if we come out of this weekend winning a series on the road against a team like ECU, that's a great weekend for us, And in the moment, you try to win every single game, but you try to be realistic as well, Like to go down there and say, oh, we're going to sweep ECU, it's not a realistic expectation. It'd be pretty cool if we did, but you want to win series. That's how you win championships within your conference. That's how you make hay from an at-large standpoint. When you win series, that's a pretty good weekend all in all. So yeah, that's certainly the goal.
Billy O'Connor in his 9th season at Xavier, and really a good guy. Never met him personally, but had him on the radio, and he really sounded like he's fired up. And they've got a gauntlet. They play at East Carolina the first weekend, at Arkansas, at Fullerton, at Oregon State, at Georgia Tech. Those are all 3-game weekend series, all on the road. Then midweeks, they've got Louisville, Indiana, Ohio State for 2, Oregon for 2, Ball State, Cincinnati, Vanderbilt, and Michigan. What a schedule Xavier has.
Yeah, and they're not afraid to challenge themselves. I give him a lot of credit. And you look at East Carolina, they kind of handle it similarly, where they scheduled the weekend series with Carolina. They played Duke in the midweek, NC State in the midweek,
Carolina.
Coastal with the 3-game set. Thank you. I almost forgot that. And the national runners-up last year. And Cliff does not afraid to play teams either. So I give Coach O'Connor a lot of credit, like you said on your radio show. Like, he's trying to build a program like Cliff has at ECU, and the way to do it is to play against the best. So if you get to a regional, you're not intimidated.
Xavier is picked 3rd in the Big East Conference, so they're pretty good as far as what they bring to Greenville. 4:00 for Game 1 coming up on Friday. Also for the weekend, we've got the Purple Gold Classic. East Carolina went 2-3 in softball in the Buzz Classic down in Atlanta. Gabby Fowler had 4 home runs last year. She had 2 over the weekend. Sarah Stone played a really good position and catcher. An Indiana transfer, and Anna Sawyer hit .462 for the weekend. She's from D.H. Conley, so we know a little bit about that team.
And they go up against the ranked Alabama, so another situation where Coach Winkler is trying to play them against teams that you could see in the postseason. I know they're trying to take the next step. He's done such a good job of bringing them back to that, where they're winning 30 to 35 games a year and trying to get to that next step of, going to the NCAA regional for the first time in some time.
And they got some good teams coming in for the Purple Gold Classic, so you can go see some baseball, go see some softball. Should be a great, great weekend. We'll take our final break. We'll come back and we'll wrap up this edition of Bailey's Best right after this. Welcome back to Bailey's Best as we wrap up this edition. We'll talk high school basketball now. The schedule got kind of, in a bad way because of all the snow. At least the Big Carolina Conference tournament's been canceled. I think maybe a lot more of those tournaments will be canceled, and they'll try to make up games in that area. And then, of course, it'll be on to the postseason, on to the playoffs. And for some teams, I think Kinston, I think Farmville Central, those teams, that's their time of the year, especially Farmville. They're ready to go win a state championship.
Yeah, they are. Haven't lost yet as we sit here and record. And you were at Conley and Rose last night. I know you were making the rounds. Rose plays Kinston tonight as we sit here, so we won't talk about that game. But, Rampant's got a nice win over Jacksonville. It's been impressive the job Robert Duck has done in year 2 of really making that program legit in 6A. I think it's going to be them in Northern Nash that it comes down to. But what did you see at Rose last night?
Yeah, they look pretty good. I mean, obviously they bolted out to a 12-0 lead, so the game was not in doubt the entire way, and that's what they expected because they blew out Jacksonville down in Jacksonville earlier. They kind of knew that was going to, kind of be the rub as far as that goes. But I think, and they hope to have a long run in the postseason as well. I was talking to some of the folks at Conley. They're hoping if they can get another win or two, maybe they can, slip into the playoffs, because once you get into the playoffs, you never know. The big news around town, and really they haven't publicized it a whole lot, but the regional finals return to Greenville and Williams Arena, Menzies Coliseum. You obviously weren't here, but back in the day, we had the whole week was designed, way pre-COVID. And the whole week we had the regional semifinals. You know, we had the 1As one night, the 2As, the 3As, the 4As, and it would all build up to championship Saturday. And it was just, Dr. Jimmy Grimsley, the late Dr. Jimmy Grimsley, ran it, did a great job with it. And it's just one of those weeks that you always look forward to. You knew it was going to be a fun time. And these will just be the finals. But I think this is going to help all of us. It's going to help us a lot because we don't have to go anywhere to cover the regionals because we always have a lot of teams in the regionals.
Yeah, and I think we will this year. When you look at, kind of up and down, in 1A you got Northside Pinetown. Yeah. They've done a really nice job this year. Even 2A, Tarboro we talk so much about for football.
Do they run the Tarboro T in basketball?
I don't think they run the T in basketball, but they're the 6th seed as I looked earlier this morning if the season were to end in the East. 3A, you got in order Farmville Central, Kinston, Martin County, 1, 2, and 3 in the 3 seats. So any two of those at Minges would be awesome. And
big crowd. And
in the 4A, Washington and Reedsville, they played at the John Wall earlier this year. Washington got the win. Reedsville doesn't have Kendra Harrison. He's at Oregon. He's going to play football and basketball a la Julius Peppers, or at least try to anyway. So they don't have him. Washington has been really fun to watch this year. 5A, you got teams down the coast that could make some noise. Croatan is one of them. Northside Jacksonville's had a nice year. Swansboro made it to the Eastern Finals last year. And then we already talked about Rose in the 6A. If they played Northern Nash, I think that would be an awesome game at Minges, and we'll see if they can get there. But you got a lot of teams. I think it's as deep as it's been in my time here, and maybe in some time here as far as boys basketball.
And you think about it, a market size like ours, and we're the 100th, right around there as far as market size goes. Raleigh, Greensboro, Charlotte, that's where the bigger schools, the 7As and the 8As, as far as classifications go, they don't have a lot of 1As and 2As.
No.
We in the eastern part of the state have a bunch, and we're always going to have somebody's going to go to the state championship. And, you have boys and you have girls. You can't leave the girls out. So you've got the boys and the girls. Same thing coming up in the spring with baseball and softball. So it's going to be a busy time. But it's so exciting when teams are going for state championships.
It really is. And on the girls' side, I'll shout out South Central, Kinston, and JH Rose have really been the 3 teams when I've watched this year that have a chance to make runs. South Central's definitely got some talent with Brooke Evans, and Rose and Kinston, the girls play tonight, and that's a matchup where I'm really excited to see who comes out on top of that one. They're doing all the state finals at Wake Forest. I think we're going to just take 9 on your side sports, pick it up, and put it in the western part of the state, as well as the ACC tournament in Charlotte, and we'll have the state finals in Winston-Salem. So it'll be basically just 9 on your side west for that week of March 11th through the 14th.
What's the best part of the trip to Winston-Salem? Do you remember?
Stopping at the bar.
At the barbecue place. What was it called? You remember?
It's a little something. No, I'm gonna get the name wrong.
Yeah, it's right around from the Coliseum there.
Oh, I'm gonna get the name wrong. Little Richards.
Good stuff. Sure.
No, I don't think so.
We'll check on it though.
We'll fact check. We'll come back next week with
All
the
right.
right name.
We're out of time. We'll be back with you next week with another edition of Bailey's Best.